You know, most of us live our lives waiting for a reset button. We tell ourselves that on January 1st or next Monday, everything will be different. We wait for the clock to strike midnight, hoping that a new date on the calendar will somehow fix our problems. But here is the harsh truth. The calendar cannot change your reality. Only you can. If you feel like you've been drifting on autopilot lately, or if you feel stuck in the same loop, it's not because you lack talent or potential. It's simply because your current operating system, your daily habits, are designed to keep you exactly where you are. Real change isn't about a sudden burst of motivation. It is about rewiring your neural pathways through consistent action. It's about replacing the noise with clarity. Today, we're going to walk through 10 specific transformative habits. These aren't just surface-level tips. They are psychological shifts meant to rebuild your focus, protect your energy, and fundamentally upgrade your mindset for the future. Welcome to Stoic Saga. Let's dive in. Habit number 1. Start your morning with intention. Let's really deconstruct what happens in the first few moments of your day, because this brief window of time effectively determines the trajectory of your entire life. When your alarm goes off and you open your eyes, your brain is physically transitioning from a state of rest, dominated by delta and theta waves, into a state of alertness. In this transitional phase, your subconscious mind is incredibly porous and impressionable. It is wide open. And yet, for the vast majority of people, the very first instinctive action they take, before their feet even touch the floor, is to reach for their smartphone. This isn't just a bad habit, it is a neurological surrender. By immediately exposing yourself to the chaotic flood of the internet, social media notifications, tragic news headlines, work emails, and other people's artificial lives, you are essentially hijacking your own dopamine system. You are forcing your brain to process a massive amount of high-stress information before it has even had the chance to establish a sense of self for the day. You are flooding your nervous system with cortisol and adrenaline, putting yourself into a fight-or-flight mode when you should be in a state of calm preparation. The danger here is that you are establishing a reactive baseline for your existence. When the first input of your day is external, someone else's agenda, someone else's emergency, or an algorithm designed to make you angry, you are handing over the keys to your cognitive sovereignty. You're training your mind to believe that the world's noise is more important than your own internal peace. This reactivity doesn't just vanish after you put the phone down. It lingers. It becomes the background operating system for your entire day. You find yourself feeling scattered at work, irritable with your family, and constantly seeking the next distraction, simply because you started the day by consuming rather than creating. You began the day on the defense, dodging information bullets, rather than on the offense, moving towards your own goals. This is why so many people feel mentally exhausted by 10 a.m., not because they have done hard work, but because they have spent their most valuable mental energy processing irrelevant noise. Starting your morning with intention is the radical act of reclaiming that lost territory. It is about drawing a hard line in the sand and saying that the first hour of the day is sacred ground that belongs exclusively to you. This is not about performing a performative aesthetic morning routine for Instagram where you take an ice bath and meditate for 2 hours, unless that genuinely serves you. Rather, it is about the discipline of silence. It is the ability to sit with your own thoughts without needing to drown them out with a podcast or a feed. When you wake up and deliberately choose to ignore the digital world, you create a space where your own ideas can actually surface. You allow your brain to boot up naturally. Whether you use that time to read, to journal, to exercise, or simply to drink your coffee and look out the window, you are sending a powerful signal to your subconscious. I am in control of my attention. This builds a reserve of willpower and focus that you can draw upon later when the chaos of the world inevitably tries to intrusion. Habit number 2. Protect your focus. We are currently living through what is arguably the greatest crisis of human attention in history, situated squarely in the middle of the attention economy. In this economic model, your focus is not merely a personal attribute. It is the raw material, the product that is being mined, packaged, and sold to advertisers by the wealthiest companies on Earth. Every single notification, every red dot, every infinite scroll feature, and every algorithmically generated recommendation is the result of billions of dollars spent on behavioral psychology with one singular predatory goal: to fragment your concentration. They understand something that most of us forget. If they can break your focus, they own your reality. This is why protecting your focus is no longer just a generic productivity tip to help you finish your homework or your report faster. It is a fundamental act of rebellion. It is a necessary survival mechanism for your mind in the 21st century. If you are not actively building walls around your attention, you are by default allowing it to be stolen, sliced up into microseconds, and sold off, leaving you with a mind that feels perpetually scattered, anxious, and incapable of deep thought. We have convinced ourselves that we can adapt to this new environment through multitasking, wearing our exhaustion and constant connectivity like a badge of honor. But the neuroscience tells a radically different and more alarming story. The human brain is biologically incapable of true multitasking. What we are actually doing is rapid task switching. Every time you shift your attention from a deep work task to a Slack message, then to a text, and then back to your work, you are paying a heavy metabolic price known as cognitive switching penalty. Research shows that when you switch tasks, a part of your attention remains stuck on the previous task, a phenomenon called attention residue. This means that if you are interrupted every 10 minutes, you are effectively operating with a fraction of your IQ for the entire day. You are technically working, but you are producing what Cal Newport calls shallow work, tasks that require zero cognitive effort and create zero real value. You end the day feeling completely drained, yet looking back, you realize you haven't actually moved the needle on anything meaningful. This is the trap of modern busyness. We are frantically running on a hamster wheel, confusing motion with progress. To escape this trap, you must become absolutely ruthless with your environment and treat your focus like a finite, non-renewable financial resource. This requires the cultivation of deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task for extended periods. This is where the magic happens. When you strip away the distractions and force your brain to engage with a single problem for an hour or two, you enter a flow state, a neurological state where time dilates, the self vanishes, and performance skyrockets. This state is where all great art, science, and philosophy come from. It is where fulfillment lives. In the coming decade, as AI automates the shallow, repetitive tasks, the ability to focus deeply will become the rarest and most valuable skill in the marketplace. While the rest of the world is drowning in a sea of dopamine and distraction, the individual who can sit in a room alone and hold their focus on one thing will be the one who changes the game. Habit number 3, do one hard thing daily. We have evolved into a society that is fundamentally obsessed with the pursuit of comfort. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, our entire modern infrastructure is designed to remove friction from our lives. We have temperature-controlled environments, food delivered to our doorsteps, entertainment on demand, and infinite conveniences that ensure we never have to physically or mentally strain ourselves unless we choose to. From an evolutionary biology perspective, this makes perfect sense. For thousands of years, conserving energy was the key to survival. Our brains are hardwired to seek the path of least resistance because, in the wild, caloric expenditure was a risk. However, in the modern world, this ancient biological drive has become our greatest liability. We are currently facing a crisis of comfort, where the absence of struggle is not making us happier, but rather, it is making us fragile. When you remove all resistance from your life, your threshold for stress plummets. You become structurally weak, not just physically, but psychologically. This is why we see people falling apart over minor inconveniences, a slow internet connection or a rude comment, because their minds have atrophied from a lack of genuine challenge. They have no reference point for difficulty. To counteract this inevitable decay, you must introduce a protocol of voluntary adversity. This is the practice of deliberately introducing a stressor into your day, not because you have to, but because you choose to. This is what the Stoics understood, and what modern neuroscience is rediscovering. Friction is the prerequisite for growth. When you commit to doing one hard thing every single day, whether it is a freezing cold shower, a high-intensity workout that pushes you to failure, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, or studying a complex subject, you are doing something profound to your neural circuitry. You are engaging the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, a region of the brain that scientists have linked to willpower and the will to live. Studies suggest that this area of the brain actually grows when you do things that you do not want to do. By forcing yourself to overcome the initial resistance, you are physically rewiring your brain to become more resilient. You are teaching your nervous system that the sensation of discomfort is not a signal to stop, but a signal to adapt. This habit is not really about the specific activity itself. The cold water or the heavy weights are just tools. The real objective is the psychological victory of mind over impulse. Every time your brain screams, "This is uncomfortable, stop," and you choose to override that command, you are casting a vote for a stronger version of yourself. You are building self-trust. Most people suffer from a lack of confidence because they have a long history of breaking promises to themselves. They say they will do something, and then they let their feelings dictate their actions. When you do one hard thing daily, you reverse this pattern. You prove to yourself day after day that you are the type of person who can endure, the type of person who does not crumble under pressure. This creates a callus over your mind that protects you when life inevitably throws involuntary hardship your way. You stop fearing the difficult path because you have walked it every day on purpose. Habit number 4, finish what you start. We live in a culture that romanticizes the start. We celebrate the launch, the announcement, the new idea, and the initial burst of inspiration. And biologically, this makes sense because starting is chemically rewarding. When you begin a new project, whether it is a YouTube channel, a diet, or a business idea, your brain releases a surge of dopamine simply based on the anticipation of the reward. You feel productive just by planning the work. However, this feeling is a trap. It creates a generation of chronic starters, people who have a graveyard of half-built bridges, unfinished manuscripts, and abandoned goals. The problem is that while starting is fueled by excitement, finishing is fueled by character. The middle phase of any endeavor, often called the valley of despair, is where the dopamine wears off, the novelty fades, and the actual grinding work begins. This is where most people quit. They interpret the loss of excitement as a sign that they are on the wrong path, so they jump to the next shiny object to get that dopamine hit again. But this cycle is destructive. Every time you quit something halfway, you are essentially training your subconscious mind to believe that you are not a person who follows through. You are eroding your own integrity. There is also a profound cognitive cost to leaving things unfinished, a phenomenon in psychology known as the Zeigarnik effect. This effect states that the human brain remembers uncompleted tasks better than completed ones. Essentially, an unfinished task creates an open loop in your mind. It runs as a background process, quietly draining your cognitive battery and creating a low-level hum of anxiety. You might not be consciously thinking about that unfinished project, but a part of your brain is continuously allocating resources to keep it active in your working memory. When you have 5, 10, or 20 open loops, your mental bandwidth is decimated. You feel exhausted, not because you are working hard, but because your brain is overwhelmed by the weight of loose ends. You are walking around with a mental backpack full of rocks. Therefore, the habit of finishing is not just about productivity, it is about mental hygiene and psychological closure. You must become a closer. This means being extremely careful about what you agree to start. But once you commit, you see it through to the absolute end, even if the result isn't perfect. We need to replace the perfectionist mindset with a completionist mindset. A mediocre project that is finished and shipped is infinitely more valuable than a masterpiece that exists only in your head. When you finally close a loop, when you hit publish, submit the assignment or finalize the deal, your brain releases a different kind of chemical reward. It's not the cheap, jittery dopamine of a new idea. It is serotonin, the chemical of satisfaction and status. You feel a deep sense of relief and competence. You prove to yourself that you are reliable. By ruthlessly closing these loops, you free up massive amounts of mental energy, allowing you to move into your next chapter with clarity and power. Habit number 5. Consume less, create more. If you look at the architecture of modern society, you will notice a disturbing trend. The vast majority of the population has been conditioned into a permanent state of passive spectatorship. We are witnessing an epidemic of what can only be described as information obesity. Just as we have engineered a food environment that makes us physically obese with cheap, calorie-dense, nutrient-poor food, we have engineered a digital environment that makes us mentally obese with cheap, dopamine-dense, value-poor information. The average person spends hours every single day inhaling content, scrolling through 15-second videos, binge-watching series, reading hot takes on Twitter, and listening to endless podcasts without ever pausing to synthesize or apply any of it. This creates a dangerous imbalance in the brain. When the ratio of your input drastically exceeds your output, your mind stops functioning as a generator of ideas and starts functioning merely as a storage facility for other people's thoughts. You lose your cognitive agency. You become a consumer in the truest, most industrial sense of the word. A unit designed to ingest content and generate ad revenue rather than a human being designed to impact the world. The psychological cost of this imbalance is the gradual erosion of your unique identity. When you are constantly plugged in, constantly streaming the consciousness of the collective internet into your own mind, you leave zero silence for your own original thoughts to form. You begin to mimic the opinions, the anxieties, and the desires of the crowd because you have forgotten what your own voice sounds like. This is why so many people feel a vague sense of emptiness despite being entertained 24/7. Consumption is effortless. It asks nothing of you. You can watch a movie about a hero while sitting on your couch doing absolutely nothing heroic. It provides a simulacrum of life, a fake feeling of experience. Creation, on the other hand, is difficult. It requires friction. Whether you are writing a journal entry, building a business, coding a program, cooking a meal from scratch, or recording a video, creation demands that you organize the chaos of your mind and manifest it into reality. It forces you to make decisions, to solve problems, and to face the possibility of failure. However, this friction is exactly where meaning is found. Humans are evolutionarily wired to be toolmakers and builders, not just audiences. Fulfillment is not found in what you take from the world. It is found in what you leave behind. The shift from consumer to creator is perhaps the single most important psychological shift you can make in 2026. It changes your orientation toward life from passive to active. When you are a creator, you stop looking at content as entertainment and start looking at it as research. You stop looking at the world as something that happens to you and start seeing it as raw material that you can shape. You don't have to be an artist to be a creator. You just have to produce more than you consume. If you watch a 1-hour documentary, write a 1-page summary. If you read a book, apply one concept. By forcing yourself to output, you move from the sidelines into the arena. You reclaim your power, because while consumers pay for the future with their attention, creators build the future with their intention. Habit number 6. Move your body daily. We tend to compartmentalize our existence, treating the mind and the body as two completely separate entities. We go to the library or the office to train the mind, and we go to the gym to train the body. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of human biology. Your brain is a physical organ, and it is inextricably linked to the physiology of the rest of your system. The modern world has seduced us into a sedentary lifestyle that is frankly unnatural. We were not evolved to sit in ergonomic chairs for 12 hours a day, staring at illuminated rectangles. We evolved as endurance predators, designed to move, to hunt, and to traverse long distances. When you strip that movement away from your daily life, you are not just letting your muscles atrophy. You are creating a stagnant environment for your mind. There is a profound correlation between the rise of sedentary behavior and the rise of anxiety and depression. When you remain static, your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, accumulate in your system with nowhere to go. You feel agitated and trapped because biologically your body is signaling that it is trapped. We need to reframe exercise completely. For too long, the fitness industry has sold exercise as a vanity project. It's about six-pack abs, burning calories, or looking good for summer. While those are fine side effects, they are the least interesting reasons to move. The real reason to move your body daily is for cognitive optimization. When you exercise, particularly when you engage in aerobic activity or resistance training, your body releases a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Neuroscientists often refer to this as miracle grow for the brain. It encourages the growth of new neurons and protects existing ones. It improves memory, accelerates learning, and regulates mood more effectively than many pharmaceuticals. So, when you skip a workout, you aren't just missing out on burning fat. You are denying your brain the very fertilizer it needs to function at a high level. You are choosing to operate with a foggy, slower, and more fragile mind. Therefore, the habit of moving your body daily is a non-negotiable pillar of mental health. This doesn't mean you need to become a bodybuilder or run marathons. It means you must break the pattern of stagnation. It could be a 40-minute walk in nature, a heavy lifting session, or a high-intensity interval run. Anything that elevates your heart rate and forces you to be present in your physical form. There is also a meditative aspect to hard physical exertion. When you are under a heavy barbell or at the limit of your cardio endurance, you cannot worry about your emails or your awkward social interactions. The physical stress silences the mental chatter. It forces you into the now. Most of us spend our lives living entirely in our heads, disconnected from our physical reality. Daily movement is the anchor that pulls you back down to earth, clears the metabolic waste from your system, and resets your baseline. You don't exercise to add years to your life. You exercise to add life to your years. Habit number 7. Journal to understand yourself. There is a profound misconception about journaling that views it as a teenage pastime, a Dear Diary exercise where you complain about your day. This could not be further from the truth. In the context of high-performance psychology and Stoic philosophy, journaling is a rigorous tool for metacognition. It is a weapon for self-analysis. The average human being has somewhere between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts per day. The problem is that the vast majority of these thoughts are repetitive, subconscious, and completely disorganized. They loop in the background like a broken record, creating a low-level static of anxiety that we can feel but cannot quite identify. We often trick ourselves into thinking we know what we want or why we are upset, but usually we are just swimming in a soup of vague emotions. You cannot fix a problem that you cannot clearly define. As long as your thoughts remain trapped inside the echo chamber of your skull, they remain fluid and terrifying. Writing is the mechanism by which we turn the chaos of emotion into the structure of language. This is a crucial distinction. Thinking is circular, but writing is linear. When you force yourself to write a thought down, you are physically dragging it out of the abstract realm and pinning it onto the paper. You are externalizing your internal state. Once a thought is on the page, it is no longer you. It is an object that you can observe, critique, and analyze. This creates a necessary psychological distance, a gap between the thinker and the thought. In therapy, this is often called naming it to tame it. When you articulate a fear, it loses its power over you. When you write down a confusing situation, the logic gaps become immediately visible. You stop being the victim of your mind and start becoming the architect of it. You are effectively debugging your own operating system, line by line, looking for the errors in your code. To practice this habit effectively, you must abandon the need for it to be pretty or profound. This is not for an audience. This is for your sanity. Do not worry about grammar or spelling. The most powerful technique is simply the brain dump, writing continuously for 10 or 15 minutes, uncensored, about whatever is occupying your mental RAM. Ask yourself difficult questions. Why did that comment trigger me? What am I actually avoiding right now? What is the worst-case scenario? By doing this daily, you clear out the mental cache. You will find that you stop carrying yesterday's stress into today. You develop a relationship with yourself that is based on honesty rather than delusion. History's greatest minds, from Marcus Aurelius to Einstein, kept journals not because they had extra time, but because they needed a space to think clearly. In a world of constant noise, the blank page is the only place where you can truly hear yourself. Habit number 8. Learn one useful thing every day. There is a tragic phenomenon that occurs in the lives of most modern adults. Around the age of 22 or 25, the moment they leave the formal education system, they simply stop learning. They might learn how to do their specific job, and they might learn the plot of the latest Netflix series, but their intentional, proactive pursuit of knowledge comes to a grinding halt. Benjamin Franklin once famously said, "Some people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75. He wasn't talking about biological death. He was talking about intellectual death. When you stop learning, you stop growing. And in nature, anything that stops growing starts dying. This stagnation creates a rigid mind. You become stuck in your old patterns, your old beliefs, and your old ways of solving problems, while the world around you continues to evolve at an exponential pace. This gap between your static knowledge and the dynamic reality of the world is the source of irrelevance. From a neurological standpoint, continuous learning is the only way to maintain neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Your brain is an use it or lose it organ. When you challenge it with new concepts, new languages, or new skills, you are physically keeping the hardware young. But beyond the biology, there is the concept of the compound interest of knowledge. We all understand how compound interest works in finance. A small amount of money invested consistently grows into a fortune over time. Knowledge works exactly the same way. If you learn just one useful concept, mental model, or practical skill every single day, the math is staggering. In 1 year, you have 365 new tools in your mental toolkit. In 10 years, you are operating on a completely different level of reality than your peers. You become a polymath. Someone who can connect dots between disparate fields, seeing solutions that others miss because they lack the breadth of understanding. This habit is not about going back to university or getting more degrees to hang on your wall. It is about cultivating a ferocious curiosity. It is about rejecting the passivity of entertainment in favor of the utility of education. It means asking why and how, instead of just accepting things as they are. One useful thing is the key phrase here. Don't just hoard trivia. Learn something that changes how you navigate the world. Learn the basics of negotiation. Learn how a car engine works. Learn the history of the banking system. Learn a breathing technique for stress. When you commit to being a lifelong student, you remove the ceiling on your potential. You realize that you are not a finished product. You are a perpetual work in progress. And the moment you learn something new, the world gets a little bit bigger, and your place in it becomes a little bit more significant. Habit number 9. Cut what drains your energy. We often think of our lives in terms of addition. We ask, what do I need to add to be happier? We think we need a new habit, a new relationship, a new gadget, or a new routine. But the Stoics and the minimalists understood a deeper truth. Improvement is often a process of subtraction, not addition. This is the concept of via negativa, improving your life by removing what is harmful rather than adding what is helpful. You can drink all the green juice in the world, but if you are also drinking poison every day, the green juice doesn't matter. You have to stop drinking the poison first. In your life, there are specific people, activities, obligations, and environments that act as energy vampires. These are the things that leave you feeling hollow, exhausted, and cynical. Yet, due to social politeness, guilt, or simple inertia, we continue to tolerate them. We drag this dead weight around with us for years, wondering why we can't run faster. You need to conduct a ruthless energy audit. Look at your last week. Identify the moments where your mood plummeted. Was it after scrolling through a specific app? Was it after a conversation with a specific friend who only calls you to complain? Was it after saying yes to an event you had zero interest in attending? These are not neutral events. They are costs. Every time you engage with something that drains you, you are paying with a piece of your life force that you can never get back. You have a finite amount of energy every day, a limited battery. If you spend 40% of that battery dealing with drama, negativity, or mindless consumption, you are left with scraps for your own dreams and your own family. You are bankrupting your potential to appease things that don't matter. Cutting what drains you requires courage because it often involves difficult conversations and setting boundaries. It means silencing the group chat. It means unfollowing the accounts that make you feel inadequate. It means telling a friend, I can't help you with this right now. It means quitting the project that is going nowhere. When you start pruning the dead branches from your life, something amazing happens. You suddenly have space. You have the bandwidth to breathe. The energy you were wasting on maintenance is now available for growth. You aren't being selfish, you are being strategic. You are protecting the asset, which is you. By eliminating the negative, the positive naturally expands to fill the void. You don't need to force happiness. You just need to remove the things that are actively making you miserable. Habit number 10. Build consistency, not perfection. We finally arrive at the habit that binds all the others together, and simultaneously the trap where most ambitious people eventually fail. That trap is the seduction of perfectionism. We live in a curated world where we only see the highlight reels of other people's lives, the finished product, the edited photo, the successful business launch. We rarely see the messy, chaotic, and often ugly process that led there. Because of this, we develop a warped standard for ourselves. We convince ourselves that if we cannot do something perfectly, it is not worth doing at all. This is the all-or-nothing fallacy, and it is the single greatest killer of dreams. Perfectionism acts like a sophisticated form of procrastination. It masquerades as high standards, but in reality, it is just fear. It is the fear of being judged, the fear of being seen as a beginner. So we spend months planning, strategizing, and waiting for the perfect time to start, only to find that we are paralyzed by our own expectations. The antidote to this paralysis is a fundamental shift in philosophy. Value consistency over intensity. Intensity is sexy. It makes for great movie montages. It's the all-nighter, the crash diet, the sudden burst of heroic effort. But intensity is unsustainable. Biology seeks homeostasis. If you push too hard, too fast, your system will inevitably snap back. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet. It is unglamorous. It is boring. But consistency is the only thing that actually works in the long run. It is the understanding that a B- workout done 3 times a week for a year is infinitely superior to an A+ workout done once a month. It is the realization that showing up on the days you feel terrible is more important than showing up on the days you feel great. This is because you are building a relationship with yourself. When you show up consistently, even imperfectly, you are proving to your subconscious that you are reliable. You are forging an identity. You must embrace the concept of iterative progress. Look at how nature works. Look at how evolution works. It doesn't aim for perfection in one leap. It adapts, iterates, and improves over millions of tiny